Good morning and welcome to Words That Matter, a modern day book club. I'm your host, Lee Smith. Today's a really special show. A lot of people in the studio getting ready, getting prepared for this, sort of giddily excited, because today our author is also a bona fide celebrity, a country music recording star with a brand new book out called Raisin Me, a Country Girl. And the author and the star is RaeLynn.
Raising me a country girl, don't be fooled by her golden curls. She's sweet as sugar but tough as nails.
RaeLynn, thank you so much for being here with us today on Words That Matter. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Anytime I get to talk, I like it. So
All right, that's great. Well, look, I mean, I don't think there are that many country stars, music stars, period. We have a children's book out, and your book, Raising Me a Country Girl, I guess came out a couple months ago with Brave Books. And
Yes.
first of all, congratulations. Good, it's great news, very exciting. I've read it; it's very lovely and fun. So, if you can tell us what the story is, and then I want to know how you decided to write it and why.
So I wrote the song "Raise Me." So it started as a song. So I wrote the song "Raise Me a Country Girl" when I was 8 months pregnant. So I was about to go on maternity leave. It was my last writing session before I was going out. Then to take a break, and I was thinking, what's the last song that I want to write that to leave in the world? And so I was like, well, I have to write a song for my daughter. And I'd already written this sappy, sad, sweet songs. I was like, she needs a fun song. Her mama's fun. She's going to be fun. I know she's going to have a personality. And I just got to really thinking, like, I had a really good childhood. And I am so grateful for the values and the life that I was raised in, being raised as a country girl. And so I kind of just wrote down, what my life was like growing up and put those stories into the song. And after we wrote this song, I'm always trying to, think of new things that we can do. And I've always wanted to write a children's book, but I've never been quite inspired on what the book would be about. And it just kind of clicked to me one day of, oh my gosh, we should make Raising Me a Country Girl, the song, a children's book. And this book has been so great for me too, because I write songs all the time, but I don't write books. And so to be creative in that way, I love books that rhyme. I love books that are fun, but I also love a book that has a great story. And I really wanted to tell the perspective of a tough, sweet girl. And that's what this song is about. The song is about that, but the book is about Daisy Ray, which is my daughter. She can't find her pup. So she goes to all the farm animals asking, she goes to her pony Buttercup. She goes to the frog. She gets stuck in the mud. And so the whole point of the book is she has to find her pup because she's about to have tea with her cousins. And her mom says, don't get dirty. And she comes back looking like a mess with, in her sundress. And then her aunt, which, the aunt in the book was like, of course, my mom was like, what's going on? And she's like, she's just like you. And so it's a very, very sweet book. But I also think it really encapsulates the toughness of what I think, she's going to be.
Wow, it's beautiful. It's beautifully illustrated and a lot of fun and very sweet. And it's a great story about a little girl going to find her puppy, her pup, and getting in a mess along the way and getting out of it, coming back home. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Is that also what a country girl is to you? Being tough and resourceful, and not being afraid to get her hands dirty?
Absolutely. I mean, as a kid, I would go outside in the morning and I wouldn't come home till dinner. I remember I would get so hot, I would drink from the water hose in the back I was just wild, but I loved it. I mean, that's what this whole book, and the reason why I love Brave Books, is it's all about getting kids back to where we were a little bit. I think, and listen, I am, I do it too, but I feel like this new way of doing things is putting a screen in front of your kid and just like not taking them outside and letting them experience the world. And I think that that is super important. I see it in Daisy when she's been inside all day and, you know, watching Miss Rachel instead of going outside and, you know, touching the leaves, getting her feet dirty, spending time in the snow. Like, children need that experience. And that's one thing that I truly do love about Brave Books. And the reason why I wanted to partner with them is because they really hold true to those values.
How old is Daisy?
She's 2.5.
Wow. I have a 3.5-year-old. Miss Rachel, a friend of Blippi. Is that who Miss Rachel is?
I don't know anything. All I know
familiar. I'm
is
sure.
she's great. She started as a speech therapist, and so when she met with a speech therapist, and then she was making these videos for her son when she left, and then these videos blew up, and so she's great. But you know, but there's something like, you know, I think with children, you have to be in front of them, teaching them all the time, because that just sharpens their motor skills. And I definitely see that with Daisy. You know, the more, and she just being with me, she being in like my day to day. I bring her on shows. I bring her with me on the bus, and she's traveling with me. She's getting so much life experience, and she's such a versatile kid. And I think it's because of that.
Are there other books? Are there other books that you like for kids? Is it hard to find? I mean, I know looking around, it's not always easy. You're checking the books and making sure there's, you know, even for 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, that there's messages that you don't necessarily want.
Not too scary.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what kinds of books do you look at, and what do you look for when you're looking for a book too?
I love books that have some kind of faith in them. You know, obviously me and Josh, my husband, and we're Christians, and we love Jesus so much. So I love books that have, you know, a sense of faith and trusting in something bigger than yourself. And so that's something I definitely look forward to. But I also just look for sweet books. It is really crazy that you have to read through even 2-3-year-old books, because you just never know. So like little hidden messages or even pictures that look scary to me. Like, I'm like, oh heck no, you're not going to read that. But one of my favorite books that I read, that I got gifted when I was pregnant, she's an independent author, and she has her own like what do you call it, pacifier line, and it's called Ryan and Rose. And she came out with a book called Cutie I Pray. And it's like, I pray you are healthy, I pray you are smart. And it's just the sweetest book, and it's full of color. And when I, you know, was a new mother in the first year, Daisy wouldn't pay attention to any book, but she loved that book, and it was all the primary colors in it and stuff. That was probably one of my favorite books.
When did you remember as a kid, did you have lots of books? So is that one of the reasons also why you wanted to write a children's book?
So I was the biggest Dr. Seuss fan. I loved how creative Dr. Seuss was. Green Eggs and Ham, I remember being my favorite.
That's a great book.
It's so funny now that, oh my gosh. But now that I'm a mom, it's, his books are long for a 2-year-old. Like, you know, because, you know, you get through some of these books, you're like, okay, like a good, like, minute read. It's a lot. Like, and we don't even get through 1/4 of the book, because Daisy's just like, shut it. She's like, I'm ready for bed, Mom. But like, they are like 1 foot, 2 foot. That book is so long, in the funniest way, because it's like their attention span's not, you know, especially, I'm sure you know, 2-3 years old, they, you know, they don't have very long to stay sitting down ready to go to bed. But I loved Dr. Seuss. That was one of my favorites.
Dr. Seuss is great. It's actually kind of fun, because I find now that all sorts of stuff that I hadn't thought about, like, do you know the Richard Scarry books? Have you seen those books? Do you know those?
What's the title?
I can't remember the title. I just remember the author, Richard Scarry, has all these different drawings of towns and cities, and of course it's a boy, so he loves. There's stuff on fire trucks and all sorts of vehicles.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really a joy to go back and look at all these books and look at the stories. It's really nice.
you get to be a kid again in so many ways. Like that's one of my favorite things about being a mother is I get to enjoy the things that I did when I was a little girl, but you get to see them through your child's eyes, and there really is truly nothing.
Do you
like
have
it.
another children's book that you're thinking about writing?
Yes, I have an idea for like a little bit of a series, and I'm excited to get that rolling because I think I have a lot of creative things going on in my head. I never stop with the things that I want to create. So we definitely have some things that in the works.
You're primarily a songwriter in addition to writing books. So I want to ask you about songwriting too, but first if you can, I know that one of the things that really helped skyrocket you to fame was your appearance on The Voice. And you tell the story that I've heard you tell is very interesting about you, California.
I grew up in Baytown, Texas. I lived there obviously my whole life. And I began songwriting at the age of 14, 15, learned how to play guitar on YouTube. And I just learned how to play songs. I didn't learn how to play chords. I learned every instrument that I learned how to play was by ear. And so I was in LA, which if you know me, I am not a Los Angeles girl. But I was in LA for almost a year, and I wanted to pursue acting, and quickly realized that I loved acting, but it just wasn't the right environment for me. And so I began songwriting while I was there because I had a lot of time on my hands. I had graduated early from high school. And while I was out there, I just really just fell in love with songwriting. And I was like, okay, I think this is really what I want to do. So I went back to Texas, and I was going to Nashville for a few writing sessions with some people that are really great in the industry. And while I was out there, they had auditions for The Voice, and I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, might as well try out. Honestly, I feel like when you're doing what you're supposed to do, the doors are just open up, and that's what happened. I did that audition. I went straight to California again, which was wild because I just moved back like 8 months before, and the journey of country music started for me. And I was talking about this recently in a podcast interview a couple days ago. It's just, I don't think I fully have grasped how much of a whirlwind my early years in my career were. I mean, I was 18 and I'm now 29, and that's a lot to experience as a teenager. And but to look back and see all that I've accomplished, not just because of me, but the talent that God gave me, it's really special. And it's all, I mean, you can't, like I said, you can't orchestrate that stuff. It's just, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And since then, I've gotten to travel the world, play the Grand Ole Opry stage, open for some of the biggest artists in the world, and
wow,
really
what a
do
great
some cool things.
Story. RaeLynn, we're just going to cut away, and audience, we're going to cut away for a little less than a minute. If you're watching on YouTube, please join us exclusively on Epoch TV. Again, we'll just be away for about a little less than a minute. When we come back, RaeLynn, I want to ask you about songwriting. I mean, our show is Words That Matter, and you're telling stories every time you write a song and every time you pick up guitar. So please make sure to make the jump of this Epoch TV exclusively. You're not going to want to miss a single second. Our great conversation with the great RaeLynn. Thanks. See you in a sec.
Help yourself. I'm not really sure how long this whole exercise is supposed to last.
A lot of you have read his books, may even have watched a movie.
No, I don't even think of him that way. He's old.
Lately, he has become the co-editor of a brand new magazine called County Highway.
We had a 10,000-word piece about traveling to see a Taylor Swift concert. You know, we have stories about everything from the wheat harvest in Kansas to, an animal attack in Iowa to, You know, the barroom storytelling in the current issue of a bunch of old cowboys in Elko, Nevada.
This is a magazine about America in the form of a 19th century newspaper.
It exists only as a newspaper, and it's the only one in the sense that we treat the country as a giant small town. We are one big family.